Hey guys, welcome to today's reading. So today I just decided to throw the floor open and I don't have a theme for today's reading, so it's just going to be whatever comes through. So with that in mind, I have 3 cards for you here to choose from. So now I'll give you some time, take a look at these cards, and when you've decided which one you're the most drawn to, just go to the description to find the timestamp for that reading. See you when you're reading. So if you guys chose this 5 of Swords card here, then this is going to be your reading. So remember, this is just a open-ended one today, where there's not a specific topic in mind, so I'll just read whatever I see and we'll see how it's applicable. So first things first, with it being the 5 of Swords, I feel like usually the 5 of Swords is about win or loss. It can be about taking more extreme actions. Doesn't have to be by yourself, it can be other people taking extreme actions against you or whatever it is. There's a competitive energy to the card, but not only that, there's like a sense of it being a situation that sometimes can require kind of competitive energy, and that's more of the sense I get here, like an extreme kind of energy needed but from you. The reason I'm saying that is this person looks like, when you see old illustrations of spellcasters and things like that, because their hands are kind of in that kind of pose as if they're conjuring some kind of magic, and also there's these like pieces of light that are being illuminated down to them, which also makes me think of this person being like a spellcaster type. So maybe, I don't want to say too much because this is an open-ended kind of reading, so I think it's important in those situations to get the whole picture with the rest of the deck too. But I feel like from my first impression, it feels like maybe you're being asked to take some kind of strong action or strong measure. I'm not saying literal spell work, I'm just mean metaphorically, so let's see anyway what it is. Okay. I'm not taking all of those, we're going to take the first one. This is the Four of Cups in this deck, Hearts is Cups. So the first card being out, being the Four of Cups, makes me feel like maybe there's a sense of complacency. Potentially on your part, this is to be like a shock of action, a shock of movement, not just sitting there and, letting things happen and being kind of, I wouldn't say apathetic, but being too passive, I would say, specifically in this case. I'm thinking of the significance of the hearts. Maybe it's like a sense of trying to be too kind or trying to be like overly positive or too enlightened in a way, because sometimes when you meet people who are very, I wouldn't say enlightened in this case, but who are very kind of connected, I will say, they can sometimes be a bit too much into, the light side of things and not want to call things as they see them sometimes, because there's an association that kind of more angry or darker kind of energy is always bad, which isn't the case. So maybe it's talking about that, being a little bit too kind and a little bit too switched on, and a need for more decisive and extreme action, maybe. I'm going to put these together because they came together. I'm just waiting till I get a couple more cards to get the full story from the message here, so bear with me. It would be good if I could not drop things everywhere. Is there another one here? So let's look at this first before we decide where we're going to go next. So there is a theme of movement and action in the overall reading. The Eight of Pentacles is a card of action, so is the Nine of Pentacles, and the Three of Wands is a card of expansion, and not necessarily just moving in a literal sense, but definitely another card of action, of movement. But the Four of Cups is kind of an opposite energy to that. The Four of Cups is kind of sitting down and not taking any sort of actions in a situation. So I feel like if I'm putting everything together, started from here, the reason that you have the Five of Swords is because it's time to do something, it's time to channel some ideas or some feelings or thoughts you've been having and transmute them into actual actions with this kind of witch kind of spell casting figure. And with it being the Five of Swords, maybe this are actions that would seem a little bit extreme to you usually. You're presented as being a Four of Cups kind of energy at the moment, of not really doing anything perhaps out of, as I was saying earlier, because it's like that sense of being too evolved where you're like, oh, I can't engage in certain things, I can't do certain things potentially, or maybe just not knowing where to go from here. Maybe this person is actually looking at these as kind of options in a sense. But then after that you have the Sun card and the Eight of Pentacles, which the Eight of Pentacles is about mastery of things, progression, working on something, and the Sun coming out on top of it is telling me that there is an action that needs to be taken, there's some work that needs to build up so that you can achieve happiness and positivity and enlightenment perhaps with the Sun card as well. And then straight after the Eight of Pentacles you have the Nine of Pentacles, which is a card of achieving results and of, I would say, it's like getting results for things that you've put work into in the past, not based on luck, not based on, just having a hit of good fortune. Nine of Pentacles is all about achieving results from endeavours that have required, all the work that we see here beforehand. So I'm just thinking what this could apply to. Maybe this, I think I have it. Four of Cups can also be about waiting for something, being at a point in life where you already have some things that you desired, but you don't have everything that you wanted. And the fact that this figure is, kneeling down and kind of looks not like they're praying, but like in a meditative kind of stance, or maybe even praying with this actually. It's like maybe you're in the energy of wanting something to come along and happen to you, being like, oh, when the time is right, this thing is just going to fall into my lap, I'm just going to be here and it's going to arrive, and that's how it's going to happen. I think your cards are saying the opposite to that. I think it's telling you you have to take some action here, you have to be the one to speak these things into existence and potentially also actually physically bring them into existence, because the Eight of Pentacles is telling you that actually doing physical actions and building something from the ground up is what's going to bring the enlightenment, satisfaction, happiness, all of those things. Nine of Pentacles, as I was talking about, is a card of achieving something from your own work, from your own merit. The other thing I'm noticing is that whatever you're waiting for, which it seems like you're being encouraged to go after, yes, exactly, with the Ten of Pentacles as well, this is also kind of, a similar message to the Sun card, that this sense of like satisfaction and happiness is going to have to be built by you. And the Three of Wands here is representing having that vision, having that ability to think about something that you want and then take the necessary steps forward. Like Wands cards, specifically the early ones, like the Two of Wands and Three of Wands, are about having very clear visions and ideas and having that energy and that motivation to go out there and do those things that you want. It's not really like Wands energy is not passive energy whatsoever. It's being a bit of a go-getter type of person. So that's what I'm seeing in the cards. But the point I was making, sorry, about the Nine of Pentacles is in this deck it's not coins as it usually would be, and sometimes in other decks it can be like literal flowers, but in this one it's stars. So it's telling me that whatever you want to achieve or are going to achieve, if you put this work in, again, there's stars here as well, it's something really special and really worthwhile. But it feels like the problem is at the moment you're just kind of hoping it will fall into your lap, and having patience and having faith is a great skill, of course, and sometimes that is what is required, but it feels like in this specific situation much more work on your part is required, and that's work with a guarantee of getting what you want. With these two cards here, the Nine of Pentacles, Ten of Hearts or Ten of Cups, being very emotionally fulfilled, it will be exactly what you want and will make you extremely happy. But the issue is you have to envision how you're going to do it. And the Three of Wands usually shows somebody waiting for like a boat to arrive to take them somewhere else. So I think it's telling you that in this case, the boat is not going to get here until you have done some necessary work behind the scenes. Because it's the Ten of, it doesn't necessarily have to be, because it's the Ten of Hearts here and the Ten of Cups, I'm thinking that maybe this is like finding a significant relationship, potentially. It doesn't have to be, it can be anything that brings a lot of joy and happiness. But the reason I'm saying that is because, you have like a figure here which looks like a couple and this person cheering for them and all the love hearts here. So it could be that, but it doesn't have to be. Or maybe as well, because the hearts here are repeated as, waiting for them to fall into place. Maybe it's talking about being more active in your approach to finding that person, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that. It can just be being active in an area of life that means a great deal to you or would make you not just happy materially, but like in your soul and your how you feel, being super content, I would say. I think for the next question, I think the message that you needed to hear was pretty clear, so I want to see what it would be advised. Like, what first steps should you take in order to start building this for yourself? Like, what's the best thing you can do to bring this Ten of Cups here, apart from obviously the things it's already pointed out, such as being more proactive and envisioning things more, but we'll see what else there is. So I'll just be 2 seconds while I clear the cards, and then I'll ask how you can best achieve this. What action should you do right now? So what's the best approach for you to become more proactive in achieving this? Well, I guess this one landed on me, so wants to be seen. Maybe there's a fear here, specifically, again, because, this has hearts instead of cups, so that is the reason why everything has hearts, but if there is a deeper meaning to that for you, then take it. If not, ignore it. But I feel like this is talking about remembering like the good side of things. So if this is talking about romantic connections and perhaps, not being very proactive in those, maybe it's because you're overwhelmingly remembering the negative sides of those things, which, don't get me wrong, can be particularly traumatic and difficult to overcome, but maybe with the Six of Cups, it's saying, remember, also the good things that you can get from being close to people, such as when you're a child and, you have like close connection with siblings or friends or other family members. So maybe it's encouraging you to, view it in a little bit more of a soft and fond way and not just look at all the bad things that come out. That can also be applied if this isn't talking about romantic connections. This can be, if say it was a project or something close to you that you tried to bring to fruition and it didn't go well, maybe you remember all the times when, I had to do this to a deadline, it was really stressful, it didn't work out, instead of remembering how good it felt, when somebody would make nice positive comments about the work that you'd done, or when you would get like a first sale and it would feel really good, or whatever it is. I think this is talking about remember the positive aspects of those situations, not just the things that were stressful or painful. So how can you start to be more proactive? Oh, two, okay. So they have two eights here together. Sorry, okay, that's Eight of Swords and Eight of Cups. I think this is exactly correct when we were talking about the kind of how the memories that you have of this venture or this old relationship or old project, whatever it is, have become the thing that has led to kind of being trapped and waiting around for something magical to just work out on its own. Because the Eight of Swords is all about thoughts keeping you stuck in place, and in particular thoughts that may not be true in nature. They can be like very true as in they actually did happen, but it's, projecting based on those things and using those kind of negative experience to keep you trapped, not viewing them in a balanced way of, well, yes, those bad things did happen to me, but they taught me a lesson. So now next time I know that if somebody does this thing, it's not okay for me, or I know that if I have a deadline for like 4 weeks, I shouldn't leave it till the very last second. It's like instead of using those to help you move forward, you're now using those to trap you, to make excuses as to not go about things until it falls into your hands and it's absolutely already perfect and doesn't require any pain or any kind of stress from you. And then the Eight of Cups is talking about, well, Eight of Hearts, sorry, making peace with that. This reminds me of tears, so maybe, crying over that fact and recognizing how painful it can be when things don't work out, but then moving on from there and then deciding that that was the past lesson, that was the past path, and you have to grieve that, mourn it and leave it there and then move on and stop trapping yourself in and waiting for, an outside energy to come in and see how this one here looks like it's enlightening, waiting for an outside energy to come in and rescue you. It needs to be that you start to have your own visions that allow you to expand outside of this kind of mental prison that you're in at the moment. So definitely grieve it and remember how painful it was, but then, these are on the way out, flowing out, let it all out and then leave it, let it go. Okay. And then it's giving you a nice message here. By doing that, by going through that grieving process, you open up yourself to be able to receive like a new blessing, be this a blessing in terms of, you're now in the right state of mind to see positive aspects and therefore start feeling that love that you once felt for your work or your project or whatever it was once again, instead of feelings of pain being there that are keeping you stuck. It's like everything, like viewing it in a happy way once again, thinking, oh yeah, I really did used to enjoy doing that. Same thing if it's about a relationship. Once you've left the old behind and become free from it, it's might be talking about how you're able to see potential new connections, or just feel like a positive attitude about love in general, perhaps. So I think this is really sweet in a way. Okay, so your final card, is it one? Yeah, it's just one. Six of Swords. This is a really nice card to end on, about how to be more proactive, because all of these cards have been, a reassurance. They're all about changing mindset. But the Six of Swords is showing you that tumultuous place, that, the disappointment and the things that made you a bit jaded and a bit, oh, I don't even want to get involved in that anymore. That is the past now. That is the old island that's being left behind in the Six of Swords. Because these people are travelling from one island to another one, and the past one is turbulent, chaotic, and the new one, you're going to go and find peace there. But the interesting thing about the Six of Swords is they're taking the swords with them. So remember, I was saying here, keep the things that you did learn because they are useful, but don't use them to chain yourself. The Six of Swords is saying exactly that. Take those things, those lessons with you, but don't use them to be scared anymore. Use them for your advantage when you get to this new place. Don't bring them as something that weighs you down, but bring them as something that helps you out in the future and helps you navigate with wisdom. And also the place that you're going to, metaphorically speaking, this new chapter looks very bright with the rainbow overhead here. These are often seen as, a sign of good luck, with the rainbow there. So take your life lessons with you and use them in this new place, but don't allow them to keep you stuck in the chaos or make you scared to move on or branch out or do new things, because actually those things that you've learned are useful to you and will help you navigate to exactly what you want. So that's all I have for the reading today. I just wanted to do one purely with cards because I got this new deck and I'm excited about it. So I hope this helped, and I will see you next time. Bye. Hi guys, so if you chose this Hermit card here, then this is going to be your reading. For today I've left the floor open, so whenever wants to come through is going to come through. There's no specific question. I'm just going to try and decode whatever the message is that I feel is being communicated through the cards. Depending on what comes out in the first section, depends how we'll proceed with the second part of the reading. So yeah, let's go straight away then. Before I shuffle anything, the first thing I wanted to say was maybe the message is to do a lot with needing some time for self-reflection and working something out in solitude, with this being the Hermit card, because that usually represents, doing some soul searching or looking into things or being very introspective and thinking deeply about a matter. So maybe there's a matter that needs some time for you to work through it properly. I'm not talking about, literally isolating yourself and going to the caves as these people used to do in the past, but maybe clearing out some of the noise and having some time to just sit with yourself and think through things, potentially. But it feels like definitely it's something that needs to be actively thought about, because this particular hermit reminds me of when you would see like philosophers, back in olden times. So I feel like it is something that actively needs turning over in your mind, but we'll see what comes out. Oh dear. I think this is definitely talking about introspection, because here this is the Princess of Hearts in this deck, but in a regular deck this would be the Page of Cups, and the Page of Cups is someone who is very able to receive messages and get hunches and ideas from their own intuition. I mean, if you look at this person here, they do literally have a letter and they look like they're reading it. So I do think it's about messages being received from one's own feelings and one's own intuition, definitely. So I think maybe it's talking about needing to find some kind of space or peaceful time to be able to connect back to that part of oneself that can receive these more subtle messages. Because when life is too busy or we have too many jobs or too many thoughts going on, those messages are often the easiest to disregard or not even pick up on, because everything else is so much louder and is so much more urgent. Whereas when you get small nudges like this, they're a lot more subtle, so it can be harder to hear if there's a lot of noise going on, either mentally or because of, a busy schedule or just having a lot on. So let's see what else. Okay, what's this? Yeah, I feel like they're trying to, it's like you're supposed to see something with the Three of Wands, because usually this person is looking out onto the water and waiting for a ship to approach. So I think that you're supposed to be alerted to something potentially, but maybe it's not being picked up on because there's too much going on. There's not enough solitude and reflection to be able to notice this vessel, this message, whatever it is being communicated. So you aren't supposed to acknowledge or see something, but it's not being picked up, I guess. What do we have here? Three of Pentacles. I get the message that this like subtle message that you're supposed to see and pick up on is supposed to be beneficial to you and is supposed to help you with, working on something or growing something, because at the end of the day, the Three of Pentacles is a card about working in harmony and collaborating sometimes. And I don't necessarily get the feeling that this is a collaboration with other people. I get the feeling that this part of you that's trying to, send a message to the part of you that's in charge of the show, running things, it's not supposed to derail you. It's supposed to actually help you with something, help you achieve something. But maybe that's not happening at the moment. Maybe if you have picked up on this, which could be the case, but I don't feel like it is, you would disregard it and think that it's just, something that's not very useful, just like a random thought or a random fear or whatever it is, or just not a very good idea. But it feels like this subtle message is actually supposed to be of use to you and help you grow and help you build something. Let's see. Yeah, Six of Pentacles, something's being shared with you with the Six of Pentacles. This can be a card about receiving help when you need help or giving help when it's needed. But because all of these cards are talking about you seeing something, you receiving a message, I get the feeling that this is about information is supposed to be shared with you from, from your own insight, but that's what's being missed. If we can, after I've read this final card here, I might try and figure out what the message is concerning. Obviously, it might be a little bit different for everyone, but we keep getting references to this strong message that, well, no, sorry, not strong, subtle message that's actually supposed to help you, but I'm not really seeing what the message entails so far, so maybe that would be useful. And maybe the point of you seeing this reading and the message that it's supposed to deliver when I read, the next section, maybe it'll be the confirmation that that is actually the thing that's supposed to help and is not just a nagging feeling. So we'll see. Let's get this last card and then we'll look. It's funny, I was thinking the reason why, this message might be being lost somewhere. And I was like, oh, maybe it's because you have a set vision and want to work hard on it, so you're not seeing this other perspective. Because the Three of Pentacles made me think of, you know, when you collaborate with people, you have to take everybody's kind of view into account. Doesn't mean that you act on everybody's point of view or perspective, but you do have to at least acknowledge and listen and sometimes take elements from each person. So I was like, oh, maybe the issue is that this other part of you also wants to have input, but because you're determined to get ahead and determined to get on with this work, it's not being listened to or acknowledged. And I feel like that's the case with the Page of Pentacles. There seems like an eagerness to get on with things, to just get on with it, to, you know, not do any more talking, planning, let's just go, let's just get on with it with the Page of Pentacles. Page of Pentacles is about learning by doing, so I feel like you are desperate to just get on with whatever it is that you're trying to grow in, but it feels like the messages you need to slow down a little bit and be more introspective and think more, because there's some useful messages coming through and in the form of hunches and just gut feelings, but because you're eager to get on with things, those are being kind of put to the side. And you know, the Pentacles in the Page of Pentacles energy coming through strongly of, come on, like, I'll just learn as I go, it's fine, don't need to think about it anymore. So maybe as I said, I'm going to try and figure out what these hunches are about, these like messages. Maybe we can find that out together. So just give me a second while I put these cards back, and then that's what we'll read for. Okay, let's see if we can find out together, or if it'll be very cryptic and you're on your own figuring it out. I don't know, we'll see. So what's Piles 2's message that they're overlooking? What is it? Oh, yeah. Okay. Hang on. Interesting. It's so funny because before there was, you know, the kind of two main energies that were coming out were Pentacles, very practical, grounded, how can I say? Practical, grounded, just get on with it, you know. No more time for talking, time for doing kind of energy, versus the Page of Cups energy, which is very much more like subtle, dreamlike in nature, being more receptive and more sensitive to things, doing things with one's heart sometimes. So it's like a clash between practical nature and then more of like a doing things like from the heart kind of nature. So, and that clash has come out again here with the Page of Pentacles, but this time with the Page of Hearts. And I think you lean into the Pentacles side much more than the Heart side, because I was asking here, what is the message that's trying to be communicated? I think this Knight of Cups, sorry, I have to translate what the traditional card would be. This Knight of Cups is trying to tell you that they want to do work that, like, they want to put their mark in the world and do work that is aligned with how they feel or who they are, or do something that satisfies them. And I feel like they're trying to tell this to the Knight of Pentacles, who just wants to, you know, build things, be grounded, be stable, be kind of not to the level of robotic, but be very tactical and practical in nature. And it feels like this Knight of Cups is chasing after the Knight of Pentacles to be like, hey, what about me? What about my ideas? What about what I think? So I think this message that was coming in the first part of the reading about the Page of Cups receiving some hunches or some tugs or some gut feelings is showing up stronger here when I'm asking what the message is. The message is there's something, you know, within your desires or within your heart that wants to come out through the work, but it's not being allowed to do things. I'll give you an example of my own YouTube channel. Lol. But anyway, it's like you can watch loads of tutorials on YouTube about the practically correct way to make videos, right? You can for example, in the tarot community, you can go on YouTube Studio, you can see what people are searching for in terms of what kind of readings, you know, tend to do well. And if I or any other creator wanted to, you could completely disregard your own kind of ideas and literally just follow the formula, which is very Knight of Pentacles way of doing things of, oh, everybody wants to know what a person's like ex is currently feeling about them. And I'm not shaming people who want to do that, that's their choice. But if I wanted to just get my success in that way, or was just focused on that success, or any other creator was just focused on that, Knight of Pentacles thing to do would be like, that's what people want to see, that's what we're going to make, you know. Next week when I want to make another video, let me just search again and see what the hot topic is that week and just target that. But if I did that, I'm not listening to who I am, I'm not listening to my heart. My heart tells me that my aim when I create readings isn't to tell people what they want to hear sometimes, it's to tell people what would benefit them the most. So it's like you have to draw a line between being practical but also not forgetting who you are and what you want to do. So I'll take practical advice on, you know, things that are kind of secondary to the reading, such as thumbnails. I don't mind if somebody's like, oh, you should change this. Yep, that's great. If that is more popular with people, if that's what inspires them to actually pay attention to the message more, then I'll do it. And that's following, you know, Knight of Pentacles practicality. But what I won't compromise on is the content in the reading. I'm not going to tell people things that I don't see in the card. I'm not going to create readings that I think aren't useful to anyone and just perpetuate certain cycles that are harmful for those involved in them. So in the same way that myself and other creators across all industries have had to balance, you know, this idea of being not just commercial, but being palatable, I guess, and doing your work in a way that will get good result. You can't then leave behind who you are though, because then the work becomes soulless. Then if I did that, I wouldn't want to create readings anymore, because I'd be like, oh, but it doesn't feel right to me, it doesn't feel right to my soul. It's not why I started to do these things. It's not why I started to read cards for other people to, you know, tell them what they wanted to hear. That's not why I do these things. So I think it's talking about you having to maybe sit with this in a similar kind of way with the Hermit, process how you're going to do things in your line of work or in your life, where you follow practical advice but you don't lose who you are underneath that. And that is a hard thing to do. Sometimes you have to work out what's non-negotiable to you, hence probably why the Hermit is here. So maybe this Hermit is taking more meaning than just, you know, introspection and like quiet place, getting away from the noise. Maybe this is actually looking at the things, which does take a lot of thought and questioning. It is actually looking at who you are, what is acceptable to you, what you want to communicate with the world, what you want to do in life, and then figuring out, okay, I'm not going to negotiate on that, but how can I change my plans slightly to allow this to come through, to allow this to happen, so that I can be successful, you know, in a traditional sense, if that's what I want, but also I can not compromise on my heart and my morals and the things that cheer me up and guide me, and the principles and the morality that I have and my dreams for myself. So I think that's what this process is talking about. The Nine of Swords we'll get into. I'll just get some more cards, but that was the first message I saw very, very strongly. What the message is that you're getting. Bit confusing, sorry. I hope you're still with me. So what is pile two's message that they're not seeing right now? Oh dear. Again, Ten of Cups is about your personal satisfaction, what drives you, what makes you feel complete, whole, the same kind of energy we're talking about here with the Knight of Cups. Where can I put this? Here. So I wanted to see if another negative card, I mean, no cards are like truly negative, but in this context, I wanted to see if another negative card in this context came out to match up with the Nine of Swords, and then we got it here with the Eight of Cups and the Ten of Wands underneath. So with this Nine of Swords makes me feel like maybe you already feel some uncomfortability around this with the Nine of Swords. Maybe it's something that has kept you awake at night and worried and wondering about the right approach, but it feels like it is overwhelming. There's too many unclear things, no clear decision has been reached. It's just ended up causing more anxiety and more kind of worries than it did solve anything. I can see here with that. So maybe that's why you're not looking at that message anymore, because you're like, no, I'm just going to get on with it. Because when I sat down, or when I was forced to think about it in some capacity, it just got more muddled and more confusing, didn't make sense of anything. And then to the other part that I was talking about, the more like negative side of this message, was the Eight of Cups with the Ten of Wands. So this makes me feel, this reminds me of like crying. This person looks like they're crying, and this looks like tears going downwards. And the Ten of Wands is all about carrying too much of a burden and being, too much, kind of overwhelmed and frazzled a little bit with the Ten of Wands. So I feel like all of those cards read together make me feel like maybe you avoid kind of doing this kind of process, because it just brings more anxieties, more worries, more sadness, more, burden. It's just another thing to deal with. But what your cards are trying to get across to you is this is absolutely necessary. Once you have taken out all of the outside concerns and actually spent some introspective time figuring out who you are, more than figuring out a plan at the moment, the first thing you need to figure out is your own happiness here with the Ten of Cups, and then we'll work towards the plan. You need to acknowledge your own, emotions and feelings first, and then work towards the plan afterwards. So it's also promising that if you do this, there's a positive outcome coming for sure. You have the Ten of Cups here again, which is being super happy and super satisfied and content in life. So I think it's telling you that this isn't a process to avoid. At the start it might be unclear, but you have to sit in it a lot longer than maybe you were used to, and it is uncomfortable. This person doesn't look particularly, happy and relaxed, and this person again looks kind of upset, and this person is carrying too much. So there is an acknowledgement that being in this hermit energy at the start might not be the most comfortable, but after that is when you get the benefit. It really reminds me a lot actually of, I'm not an expert on this, so don't take this out of context, but just a personal story and experience of what this kind of energy reminded me of. A few years ago I took a course in like Buddhism for beginners because I was interested. I find things like that absolutely fascinating. And I remember there was a guy who, was the teacher who was leading the course online, and he was talking about how people come to this course and come to, that religion in general, expecting it to bring them a lot of peace and be a very positive experience. And he was saying he'd been practicing for like 30 plus years at this point. And he was like, it is, don't get me wrong. He's like, but the first part of this training is hard. It's very tough. It's not, all sunshine and roses. Sitting with uncomfortable thoughts and uncomfortable feelings, learning how to meditate, trying to, make sense of certain painful thoughts is very tough. And he was like, people see the after effect of it. They talk about how, it brought them a lot of freedom. It made them feel so much calmer, so much better. But the initial part is painful. So I think it's also acknowledging that here with the hermit, that this is the initial part when you're trying to figure this out is a little bit hard, it is painful, but after that you get such good benefits because then you have the skill to live in a way that is aligned to you. So it was just a small anecdote that pain here and difficulty in dealing with this is normal and is necessary, but is also temporary. It won't always be like that once you've gone through this process. So with that in mind, don't ignore the message anymore, even though it's like a thing that you think is going to slow you down. It's actually not, because if these two nights were working together, they can move much more ground quicker than if it was just one of them, which is using up some energy to move forwards, but then using more energy to ignore the other one. If they're both on the same page, they can move forwards together in a much more comfortable way, because when your energy is directed totally to one thing and not branching off into two different ways, it is a lot easier. So that's all the message I have for today. Thank you for getting this far, and good luck. Bye. Hi guys, welcome to your reading. If you chose this Nine of Wands, then this is going to be your reading. So, first thing I wanted to say is that this reading, I haven't given it a theme and I've left it open. So with that in mind, we'll lay out the first spread and see what the message is that you're supposed to hear right now. Based on what comes out of that, we'll see what we want to do for the second part of the reading. So for now, we're just going to take the floor as being open and see whatever wants to come through. So I'll try and be as specific as possible, but let's just see what we see. So the first card that we had that you chose with us, the Nine of Wands, this makes me feel about like, it's kind of like defensive energy in a way, so maybe like defending yourself from something, because in particular in this card you have like the things crossed, like no entry, and she's also looks like she's, you know, pushing and like doing some kind of spell to keep people back or keep people away. So we'll see what this translates to with the rest of the cards. I'm not sure for now. So what is pile three's message for right now? Yeah, maybe you are being a little bit defensive with the King of Swords. In particular, he has his shield. I mean, I don't know if this is deserved or undeserved yet because it's not clear, but at the moment it does look like a very strong kind of protection energy with the shield ready, the spear ready, ready to defend oneself. Like both of these cards are kind of reminding me of, you know, different strategies of defense, if you will. She is like in kind of like a spellcaster way, and he is in more of like a fighter kind of way, so military, I guess, is the correct word. Maybe you're being urged to defend yourself in different ways. We'll see. Or maybe you're blocking an actual very beautiful energy coming through, keeping it out, keeping, you know, the gate shut, when actually with the swans and the Two of Cups card and these like little kind of cherub figures looking like they're about to embrace, maybe you're actually blocking yourself off to a very beautiful energy. It doesn't have to be a romantic connection, by the way, with the Two of Cups, could be, but it could also be something that, you know, is very aligned to you and would make you very happy in terms of like an opportunity of some regard, or like a move or anything that, you know, would make your heart happy. It feels like you are blocking off potentially. Let's see. Or maybe being just overly defensive when in fact all around you is kind of like loving energy trying to come through. What's this? Yeah, this is definitely being overprotective of oneself. You can see it in this Four of Pentacles here, the way she's like holding everything against her, looking really suspicious, like somebody wants to take it from her. So I'm getting very strong ideas about being a bit too on guard and a little bit too, you know, defensive in a certain situation where it's actually got pure intentions underneath it, it seems, with the Two of Cups. But it's like she's expecting things to be stolen from her, so she's not about to let that happen, which is understandable if that's what you're expecting to happen, but it doesn't look like that's what's supposed to happen. But we'll keep going. the more I see more cards, the more I don't specifically think this is romantic love. I mean, it could be for some, but the reason I'm saying that, I think it's more shutting yourself down to an opportunity that would make you very happy, is you also have the Ace of Swords here. So maybe there's like a fresh idea that came to you or came in or just thought about, but instead of taking a chance and acting on that, it became like closed down very fast. But it's actually a good thing. It's actually very aligned with what you want to do in life or who you are as a person. It's very aligned with, but this kind of like shock of the new, instead of leading to excitement and leading to thinking, oh, that sounds great, I'm going to explore that, it got met with an instant no, definitely not, keep it away, keep it out, let me keep myself safe and protected because this idea is not good, it's going to take everything from me. I mean, maybe it was an idea that you had, as I said, I already covered if it was about an opportunity in work or just in, personal things, but it could also be having like an idea of a person if this is actually about a connection. This I have a funny interpretation for, not funny as in, comedy or anything like that, but just in a strange way. The Hierophant in this case makes me think of setting yourself like very, very strict and maybe a bit over the top kind of codes of conduct or laws in a sense. It's like kind of acting like, I mean, I'm not trying to say anything like offensive or I don't mean it in a bad way, but when you say about certain people that acting like a saint, they don't do anything. They have a very high moral code, and there's nothing wrong with having a very, very high moral code. Um, but it's like, I see this as imposing a lot of restrictions and a lot of rules upon oneself, and maybe that's why you won't even entertain this idea that came, and that's why it's straight to shut down, because you're like, oh, that's not who I am, that's not what I do, that is against my laws that I've set for myself, but perhaps these laws are a bit too strict, as in they don't really allow you to experience certain things. That's what I'm getting putting this together. Do I want to clarify any cards or do I want to read how to fix it? Let me just take a look and see if there's anything I'm missing. Because I want to know if you're supposed to be keeping this way, or if you're not, how are you supposed to balance this out? I think that's going to be the thing I'll read for the next section. How are you supposed to balance this energy out? I feel like I'm missing something here, so give me a second. Oh, that's what I was going to say. Maybe the other reading that I have for this Hierophant is maybe, you're in this situation of being defensive and being kind of keeping your cards close to your chest, being very protective and on guard, but this new idea is actually supposed to teach you a lesson, but you're not very open to learning it. And by the way, teaching a lesson doesn't mean in a painful way necessarily. Just doing things in a way that you're not used to can teach you a lesson. Experiencing like positive energies that you've never experienced before can also teach you a lesson. You can learn lessons from, doing things that you enjoy or having connections with people for sure. It doesn't, when you hear lesson, it doesn't necessarily have to be, oh God, it's going to hurt, so let's not do that, let's close off. It might be that they're trying to show you like a new perspective to teach you to come out of this energy and be more trusting and more receptive, but at the moment it's met by a complete blockade. So I think I actually want to find out what this energy is supposed to do in your life, supposed to teach you, supposed to show you, because it does seem to be harmonious, whatever it is. So I'm going to do that first, and then based on what comes out there, we'll see how to balance it. If it's like super pure, we'll see how to let it in entirely. If there's some things you need to navigate, we'll get a sense of how to do that, but don't tell any of the other piles, but I feel like 2 questions here is necessary, so let me just clear this up and then we'll go to it. So since we have a lot to get through, let's not mess around. Straight out the gate, let's do what this energy is supposed to bring to you. It's supposed to give you a fresh start, a new start with peace of mind, to take you out of this very chaotic and turbulent and kind of aggressive energy and take you to a place that's more at peace and with harmony. With this rainbow appearing, it's supposed to make you move on from the past with the lessons that they brought with the Six of Swords, but you're definitely supposed to be going to a new, more harmonious place. That's why this energy has started showing up and you're not letting it in. So let's see why else. What is this energy trying to show you? Or bring to you potentially? So remember I said that, that this previously when I was talking about it's supposed to teach you a lesson, and don't take lessons as a bad thing. It doesn't necessarily mean in a painful way. Oops. The Six of Swords is saying, exactly that. It's not going to be a painful lesson. It's actually going to bring you a lot of calmness and serenity. It's something that you desire though, but maybe you have blocked off this desire because you're scared of it. This is the Knight of Wands in the traditional deck, so maybe it's to teach you about, it's okay to pursue things that you desire, definitely. Because remember as well in the previous section I was talking about how the other interpretation I was getting for the Hierophant was maybe being a bit too saintly. So I think maybe the Knight of Wands is here to... I'm not saying abandon your moral code, I don't mean it like that, but be less rigid in how you apply it maybe. Because the Knight of Wands is somebody who does go after what they want, their desires, with not much regard. And whilst that can be a negative and destructive energy in some cases, I feel like in your case it's kind of necessary because it's being, at the moment, what's the word? Repressed. That's the one. So maybe this is supposed to teach you how to balance those things safely, how to not be so defensive and on guard against things that you actually desire and not be frightened of giving in to them and become really shut down potentially. I mean, with the Temperance card, definitely it's supposed to show you how to balance these things, but I'm just having a quick stare at the Five of Pentacles. Yeah, I get the feeling this is about teaching you to be less harsh and more balanced, because if you look at this Five of Pentacles in particular, you can see this person is trying to, talk to or plead with this figure, and they just look like they're not having it. They look a bit aggressive and a bit not very feeling, kind of cold and shut down. So maybe it's talking about trying to balance out that aspect, because this could be a person approaching you, or it could be the energy I was just talking about that's trying to come through, and it's pleading with you, oh, please trust me, please listen to me, and you're like, no, no, no. And being operating from the King of Swords, as we saw in the previous part of the reading, and just shutting everything down. And the Temperance is here to show you, you don't have to 100% become receptive to everything and abandon, as I was saying, your kind of high code of conduct, but you can afford to let it flow a bit more freely and adjust things and be more flexible in your approach. Don't have to be so rule-based and rigid, I think is what the energy is trying to show you. I think one more card for this, and then we can see how you can incorporate it to have not such an extreme reaction. But I think it's actually supposed to be doing something positive for you, which is why you're getting the message to stop blocking it. So what's this energy trying to show? Oh well, there you go. One more card on it and it was the Two of Cups. It's trying to bring you something harmonious, something that you'll actually enjoy and actually feel really aligned to and love. But that can't happen if you just put all the wands in the way and block them over. So it is a pure energy that's trying to bring you serenity and love, and something that you actually deep down desire if you weren't repressing it, but the reaction at the moment is not balanced. It's too extreme and too defensive. So let me just quickly clear these up and see how we can fix that. So finally, let's see how we can achieve some temperance, some balance and moderation in a situation. Because I don't think it's very realistic to tell you to just drop these all straight away, so I'm seeing how we can navigate. Oh, what's this? So this card came out reversed, and the way I read reversals, you'll see once you watch more videos, is I either take them as an emphasis of an energy or the opposite of it. In this case, I'm taking it as an emphasis of an energy because that's what I feel. I feel like the Empress is talking about feeling secure in yourself, and that is probably going to be the most important piece of advice from how to achieve balance in this situation of, letting this energy in, but not trying to find a balance between protecting yourself and being open to things. And the most important aspect of that with the Empress is, I think it's knowing who you are, knowing your worth, and being very self-assured and self-confident, but like in an internal way, not having to go out there and be really strong and defensive, leading into, the more softer aspects of oneself, for sure, with the Empress, because traditionally speaking, and I don't want to get into all the complicated areas around this, the Empress is, the embodiment of receptive energy, of softness, of, not being ashamed of those kind of qualities. Whereas it feels like with the Nine of Wands, this is too aggressive and too defensive and cold. Whereas an Empress is somebody who is like welcoming, warm, beautiful, and all of those things. It's like all the softer kind of qualities that are embodied in the Empress, and the fact it's reversed is telling me that these strongly need to start being acknowledged and come through and not be shamed anymore. What else? How else can you achieve balance? Because I feel like to achieve balance, between being vulnerable and soft and also being assertive and aggressive, because you've leaned too far into the assertive and aggressive, you have to very strongly to get to a center point. Since you're over here on the scale, we need to, strongly put some emphasis here and strongly nurture those more soft and gentle qualities in oneself. So how can you start to let this energy in? Oh, and the other thing I wanted to say about the Empress, with regards of knowing her worth, she has the whole of the land, she has a title, she has, a lot going for her. So I think sometimes out of fear, people can react in this way and out of insecurity. So that's the other message with the Empress, that, being a very strong person and being very sure of who you are doesn't sometimes look like being overly aggressive or defensive. Sometimes, when people like don't mistake kindness for weakness, it reminds me of that a little bit, that very, very strong people can be quote unquote weak or soft, and it doesn't say anything about how strong they are as a person. And they can take the steps to protect themselves where necessary. They don't do that 100% of the time, but if somebody oversteps a boundary, they'll do it, but they don't treat every interaction as if somebody's going to take something from them. They wait to see what energy is presented. So I think that's what it's talking about here, not jump into this straight away, but being more secure in that you can be soft and can be gentle and don't have to lean so hard into being always on the defense, because you can trust you have that part of yourself there, but only use it when necessary. Anything else? How can you receive this energy better? or start to receive this energy. Do I want this? Yes. Oh, Three of Pentacles. Trust that it's working for you and it's going to work well with you, not against you. I think it's what it's saying here. The Three of Pentacles is about collaboration. I had a similar card, I think this was in pile 2. And it was like a similar kind of message of the Three of Pentacles is about people working in collaboration to create something together, a project, a building in the original card. So I think this is talking about how this energy that you're blocking is actually supposed to help you build something. It's actually supposed to be working in a team with you. It's not here to derail you or to, you know, be blocked. It's actually here to give you some assistance. So to recognize that and recognize that it's going to help you build something that you also want if you can work in a team with it. Yeah, exactly. This is also really similar to file 2. So if you want to see, well, if you feel drawn to that one, I shouldn't say if you want to see, then be sure to watch that, because these two cards came out next to each other as well in a similar kind of way. The Six of Pentacles is telling you that this is coming from a place of sharing, you know, from benevolence, from kindness, that this energy, I told you can trust it because of the previous question I asked. So I think this question here about how best to start receiving it is to the same way when sometimes we can feel a bit uncomfortable when like a loved one or somebody that we care about offers us something. You know, when you're like short on money or need help with a certain task and you don't even ask that person, they just give it to you. Sometimes it does make you feel uncomfortable accepting, but in the same way you have to overcome that and get used to it and recognise that that person chose to help you and wants to do it. Not everyone, of course, but I'm talking about people you can trust. And if they are choosing to give up their time and they want to help you, then you can accept that and you can, you know, not feel like it's wrong to say yes to it. So I feel like it's also saying the same thing here. If somebody's reaching out their hand to give you something and it's from pure intentions, it's perfectly fine to take it. It doesn't make you, you know, any less of a person or any less strong to sometimes accept those things. So I think that's also what it's communicating. Let me see if there's anything else that wants to come out before we finish. But yeah, it's crazy that these also came out in a kind of a similar way in pile 2. So if you were torn between the piles, also watch pile 2. Yeah, I think that thing about not wanting to accept help and wanting to always appear strong and in control and in charge with the Devil card with this mask here makes me feel like that's a illusion, a persona with the mask that you've created for yourself of I have to be this person who's very strong, very in charge, doesn't accept things from anyone, doesn't take any nonsense, has a very high, you know, moral code of conduct with the Hierophant. And I can't deviate from that, and that's why I think sometimes you get super defensive about new energies coming in. But this devil is telling you that's just an illusion. You're supposed to experience these things, and instead of leaning heavily more and more into this illusion, you need to start embracing the opposite to this, the more soft and vulnerable aspects. I think we're going to end the reading there for today because I think we've got everything we need to know. I hope this helped out. Good luck with leaning into this even though it can be difficult, and subscribe for more readings like this, and I'll see you soon. Bye.